Poveglia Island has been empty since 1968. In 2014, Italy tried to sell it. The winning bidder pulled out after his first visit. He never said what he saw. This is the story of the island Italy can't sell and won't talk about. The place 50% soil, 50% human remains, where over 160,000 people died, and where something went so wrong in 1968 that the government sealed it and walked away. The failed auction. May 2014. Italy's economy was collapsing. The government needed cash. So they did what desperate governments do, started selling assets. Poveglia Island went on the auction block. A 99-year lease, 7.5 hectares in the Venice Lagoon, 3 miles from St. Mark's Square. Starting bid, 500,000 euros. Developers were interested. Hotels, luxury resorts, the location was perfect. Luigi Brunaro, an Italian businessman, won with a bid of 513,000 euros. Planned to invest 20 million in restoration, turn it into a 5-star hotel. He visited the island, walked through the ruins, and pulled out. No explanation. A private investment group tried in 2015, raised millions, planned a public park, marina, restaurant. That deal fell through too. In 2025, a group of Venetians finally secured the lease. Their plan, urban park. Venice residents only, no tourists. But why did it take 57 years to find anyone willing to develop this island? Why did every private buyer walk away? To answer that, you need to know what Poveglia was. The Plague Island. Poveglia started as a refuge. In the 400s and 500s, people fleeing barbarian invasions settled there. For centuries, it was a small fishing community. Families, trade, normal life. Then came the Chioggia War in the late 1300s. The island was evacuated, and after the war, nobody came back. For 400 years, Poveglia sat empty, until 1793. That's when the plague hit Venice. Again. Venice was a trading hub. Ships came from everywhere, and plague followed the ships. So Venice needed quarantine stations, places to isolate the sick and dying. Far from the city, far from healthy people, Poveglia was perfect. An abandoned island, close enough to reach by boat, far enough that nobody would hear the screams. In 1793, it became a lazaretto, a plague quarantine station. Anyone showing symptoms was shipped to Poveglia, anyone traveling from infected regions, anyone the city wanted to get rid of. They didn't go there to get better, they went there to die. The numbers are staggering. Over 160,000 people may have died on Poveglia during the plague years. Some estimates go higher. They dug plague pits, mass graves. When those filled up, they burned bodies. When burning couldn't keep up, they just piled them. Entire sections of the island are burial grounds. Layers of bodies, decades of death. Soil samples taken in the 2000s confirmed it. Roughly 50% of Poveglia's soil consists of human remains. Ash, bone, decomposed tissue mixed with dirt. You're not walking on an island, you're walking on a graveyard. The lazaretto operated until 1814. Then Napoleon shut it down, destroyed the old church of San Vitale, converted the bell tower into a lighthouse. For over 100 years, Poveglia sat empty again. Abandoned, contaminated, forgotten, until 1922. The asylum. In 1922, the Italian government had a problem. Mental hospitals in Venice were overcrowded. The public didn't want to see mentally ill people on the streets, so they needed somewhere to put them, somewhere isolated, somewhere nobody would look. Poveglia. They converted the old lazaretto buildings into a psychiatric hospital. Officially, it was for the elderly and mentally ill who needed long-term care. Unofficially, it was a dumping ground. People sent to Poveglia weren't expected to leave. Families committed relatives and never visited. The state committed people. Society didn't know how to help, or didn't want to help. And then there's the doctor. According to legend and multiple accounts from locals, there was a head doctor at Poveglia. His name is lost. Some call him Dr. Paolo, others don't name him at all, but the stories about him are consistent. He performed experimental lobotomies, crude brain surgery, drilling into skulls above the eyes, using chisels and hammers, no anesthesia, no oversight, no consent. The lobotomies were supposed to cure insanity. Instead, they turned patients into vegetables, docile, unresponsive, and destroyed. He set up an operating room beneath the bell tower, thick walls, soundproof, so nobody could hear the screaming. He tortured patients there, experimented, treated human beings like lab rats. And then, according to the legend, he started seeing things. Patients had been reporting ghosts, plague victims wandering the halls, screams in the night, figures in the windows. The doctor dismissed it, called them delusional, punished them for lying. But then he started seeing them too. Shadows, faces, voices that wouldn't stop. The ghosts of the people who died on Poveglia, the plague victims, the lobotomy patients, all of them. He went mad, completely insane. In the 1930s, he climbed the bell tower and jumped, or was pushed. Some say he threw himself off voluntarily, driven mad by the ghosts. Others say the spirits of his victims forced him up there, threw him off as revenge. Either way, he fell, but he didn't die immediately. Witnesses said he survived the impact, lay there on the ground, broken, still breathing, and then a black mist rose from the soil. Ash and smoke from the plague pits below, it surrounded him, covered his face, and suffocated him. That's the legend. A doctor tortured patients, went insane, died by ghost or gravity or guilt, and his spirit still haunts the bell tower. But here's the thing about legends. Sometimes they're based on truth. A sign for Reparto Psichiatria, psychiatric department, is still visible on the buildings, confirming there was a psychiatric ward. The bell tower exists, the operating room beneath it exists, and the asylum closed abruptly in 1968. No explanation, just shut down, evacuated, abandoned. What happened in 1968? Why did they leave so suddenly? The government won't say. The 1968 closure. The asylum was still operational, patients were still there, staff were still working. And then, without warning, it closed. Patients were transferred, staff were relocated, the island was evacuated and sealed. No official reason was given, no investigation announced, no public statement, just closed. Some say it was because of structural damage. The buildings were falling apart, too dangerous. Others say it was because of what was happening to the staff. Psychological breakdowns, hallucinations, refusal to work night shifts, and some say it was because of what they found in the soil. In the late 1960s, environmental testing became more common. Governments started checking contamination levels, heavy metals, toxins, disease. On Poveglia, they found plague bacteria, still active in the soil after centuries, mixed with human remains, potentially infectious. They also found elevated levels of heavy metals, mercury, lead, arsenic, from decades of cremation and decomposition. The island was toxic, literally. So they closed it, evacuated everyone, banned access. And for the next 46 years, Poveglia sat empty. The 2014 auction collapse, which brings us back to 2014. The Italian government, desperate for money, tried to sell it anyway. They assured buyers the contamination wasn't a problem, that restoration was possible, that it was safe. Luigi Brugnaro believed them until he visited. What did he see? He won't say. But he walked away from a €20 million investment. Other investors tried. All of them visited the island first. All of them pulled out. Restoration crews were hired in the 2000s to stabilize the buildings. They left abruptly, without finishing, without explanation. Environmental concerns are real. Sea level rise has caused saltwater pollution in the lagoon. Toxic chemicals have been found in nearby areas. But the buildings are also collapsing. Floors rotting, walls barely standing. Navigating ruins full of plague pits and unmarked graves isn't safe. And then there are the reports. People who visited Poveglia describe experiences they can't explain. Voices, screams, shadows moving through windows, the feeling of being watched, touched, pushed. The bell in the tower was removed decades ago, but people still hear it ringing. A little girl is said to haunt the beach, crying for her parents. Fishermen avoid the island, say they hear screams carried on the wind, smell burning wood and sulfur. Is it haunted? That's not the question. The question is, why won't anyone stay? What investigators found? When they drained parts of the canal around Poveglia for maintenance in the 2000s, they found bones, human bones, mixed with the silt, not from burials, from bodies that had been thrown into the water, dumped, forgotten. Ground-penetrating radar surveys in the 2000s revealed dozens of unmarked mass graves across the island. Some documented, many not. The plague pits are real. The mass graves are real. The asylum is real. 50% of the soil is human remains. That's not legend, that's confirmed. Over 160,000 people died on Poveglia, most of them in agony, most of them forgotten. And the Italian government has spent 200 years trying to forget it ever happened. Today, Poveglia is still forbidden. Access is strictly regulated. You need special permits. And even with permits, most people don't go. The Venetian group that secured the 2025 lease plans to turn it into a park, open only to residents, no tourists. But they have to restore it first, stabilize the buildings, clean the soil, make it safe. And every time someone tries to work there, they leave. Poveglia isn't just haunted by ghosts, it's haunted by history, by 160,000 deaths, by torture, by negligence, by a government that used an island as a dumping ground for people it didn't want to deal with, the plague victims who burned alive, the asylum patients who were lobotomized, the doctor who went mad, the staff who fled in 1968. They're all still there, in the soil, in the walls, in the stories. Italy has been trying to forget Poveglia for 200 years, but Poveglia won't let them.